professional.
Hey,
Hey everyone!
guys. Hey, good to see everyone again. Hey.
What is up? We're back for another Design Cuts Community Hangout. How are the lovely design cutters in attendance?
Yeah.
How's everyone doing? Let us know in the comments.
Sussex, Berlin, Romania,
Everyone's
Maryland.
I didn't know they were called design cutters. What's all this about?
No.
They are. They're part of the crew.
Yeah.
Crikey. I want to be a design cutter.
You are. You're an official
that's
design
it.
cutter from
I
today.
am now an official design cutter.
Absolutely. Let's get hats made.
Yeah.
A huge welcome to James Martin, our guest today. James, we're so glad you could join us.
Thanks so much, James.
Not at all. It's big. I've been looking forward to it for a long time.
I think this is the most English one of these we've done since Ian Barnard was on.
Was it? Oh yeah, I suppose.
I haven't even got a cup of tea either. This is remiss.
We've got tea on board.
Yeah, and a rich tea biscuit.
Oh, nice rich tea. I like a rich tea.
Oh, I love a chocolate hobnob, me.
Oh, who doesn't? Dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Tricky.
I used to love a hobnob then. Yeah.
So we're both huge fans of James's work.
Absolutely.
Unbelievably just clean and balanced and pretty stunning, to be honest.
It really is.
So I know we're going to learn a lot today. What are you going to be sharing with us, James?
Well, a lot of you guys will know I did a breakdown post on my Instagram feed, probably, I think it was around Christmas time. And what I'm going to basically be doing is doing a much more in-depth analysis of my process. So all the way from client brief, all the way, in fact, through dissecting that, picking out all your golden nuggets, finding commonalities and stuff for creative direction. And then I'll basically, talk you through my kind of almost like a 7-step process. Sometimes it's 8, sometimes it's 6, sometimes, there's no real method to the madness. As long as I roughly stick to these, cool stuff happens. So,
awesome.
It's something that anybody can, it's not mine. I don't own it. Anybody can. I learned a lot of the tips and tricks from school. Do you know what I mean? Like doing, mapping, word mapping and lessons. And I've just taken that through to design. So
I've been loving the fact you have been sharing and teaching more though. And I think the way you consolidate that information and make it very digestible for people is a great thing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've definitely decided to take a bit more of a, because my idea is I don't want to just educate, because I also want to just, show my work, because that's what I'm all about really. But I'm trying to find that nice balance between sharing my work so my potential clients can see it, whilst also entertaining the people who are actually watching me on Instagram. So that kind of
it's a good balance. Speaking of James's Instagram, before we dive in today, shiny green button below this live stream. If you check it out, you'll notice James has more than a couple of followers going on.
Yes, he's got
quite a big community around his work. So we do hope that you will join them and follow along with his journey.
It'd be nice. It's fun. It's fun over there. It's much fun.
It's a good place.
It's a lovely place.
James, do you want to? Are you sharing your screen for this?
Yeah. So what I'll do is I will just jump in. So I'll just share my screen and get me old. Awesome. Got me? I think I'm sharing.
We got you.
Amazing.
So
oh, look at that.
There we are.
So basically, let me just get this started. Let me just so it all works. Right.
Awesome.
So, I thought I'd just put that little ditty in there for us.
I like
a little bit of me versus you, but in a nice way.
Nice.
So, I suppose I'll just start talking, and you guys can just jump in whenever, because I can't see you now because I'm sharing on full screen, but I'm cool with that because you can still hear me.
Take away. We are your eyes and ears. So as
you are my eyes and ears. So basically, within this document,
coming in.
Yeah, we'll let you know as people ask stuff, James.
Yeah, that's cool. I said jump in anytime. I like chatting, so that's all good. Basically, on the right here, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is my kind of mental breakdown of how I approach all of my projects. So yeah, the first one is I kind of deconstruct the brief. And what I'm going to do is, as I go through this, I'll kind of talk you through each step. So yeah, firstly, it's all about the brief, and then, you know, writing. Then I go into like a broad writing thought generation stage. Then I go to define my direction stage, and I go into a rapid prototyping. That's difficult to say on the rush. Prototyping stage, and then it's all about focus and refinement, and then repeating until badassery, I like to call it. So, but I mean, let's all kind of bear in mind that this is after I've received my brief from the client. So I always ask at the beginning of the project, you know, I need a brief, a mood board, and all these kind of bits. So this is obviously all happening after I've received that. So let's get into deconstructing the brief. So basically, what I tend to do is I read it at least 2 to 3 times. That way it really starts to kind of sink in. What I've also done here, just for this purposes, and people on Instagram have also seen this, is, you know, I've actually used a real life project that I did last year. So any of your, well, they call design cutters, can go and check out the project and you know, really kind of get the nitty gritty on my process and the project, so it all starts to make sense rather than it being a made up project, because I could have just done anything then. So basically what I tend to do is I'll get it printed out on a A4 piece of paper. And what I'm starting to do here is just look at stuff. You know, once you're reading it, you're kind of starting to see some bits and pieces that, you know, starting to pop out. And you know, I'm always kind of looking for commonalities in words, you know, numbers, all this kind of stuff. So as I've kind of gone through here, this is just the same slide, but how I've actually deconstructed it. So, you know, what I'm looking for here is, you know, possible directions for thought generation, creative paths, you know, anything that my brain sees that, oh, I could make something out of that. You know, I'm being very broad. I mean, really, you could highlight the whole brief, but what I'm trying to do here is be a little bit more picky. So things like bridges the gap, you know, contemporary versus ancient practices, you know, so there's that duality there. You know, improving physical, mental, spiritual health. You know, what I'm trying to do here is, you know, really kind of give myself some battleground for creation. And as you can see, my bad spelling on the left, which I apologize because I'm severely dyslexic, I've spelled mental the totally wrong way. But what you can see is that I'm actually kind of highlighting all of these little pieces, and that will bring me on to my next slide. If you guys want me to slow down, just let me know. I don't know.
No, if we're quiet, we're just taking it in. But this is
all right. Okay, cool.
I can confirm we're still here and alive.
Yeah, we tend to get quieter the more in-depth things go. So like, oh.
Okay, cool. That's fine. Well,
definitely.
Just stop.
We're seeing some comments saying yes to highlighting. Charlene says, and we're also seeing some big names in the logo world, such as Ian Paget is live on the call. I don't know if you know.
They sound like basic things to do, but it's really important to get this groundwork down, you know, for anyone.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's also such. For me, this is one of the most enjoyable parts of the, you know, the process. You know, before you even get to the drawing stage, which I absolutely love. You know, you have to figure out what you're going to draw. So yeah, basically from this point, I then go into like my written thought generation. So I've got a big A3 sketchbook. And what I'm doing here is as you can see, I'm kind of using this kind of I can't really call it that, the word mapping format. So I've taken my highlighted points. So I've obviously used Cell Squared, which is the name of the company, you know, bridging the gap, physical, mental, spiritual, contemporary versus ancient, blah, 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 blah. So I'm kind of using those as my key headers. And then from those, I'm starting to, you know, think a bit more. So with Cell Squared, I've got squares, circles, you know, bridging the gap, you know, joining two entities, space, a cell itself is a circumpunct. That's what it's called. So that's a circle. Physical, mental, spiritual, that's 3 elements. And if you go to mind, body, and spirit, 3 elements. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of letting my brain just go crazy, like just generating ideas with no boundaries. But what I'm doing is I'm looking for, potential crossovers. So you can see that I've highlighted, there's 3 elements twice. So that's possibly something that I could creatively explore, bridging the gap, 2 entities there, physical, metaphysical, that's 2 entities, movement.
James, do you find you don't hold back at all at this phase? Because
there is nothing holding me back whatsoever, apart from the elements of the brief.
Sure.
So I've got structure. So the structure
exactly, but you don't filter, because I find at this phase quite often you can actually just dump a load of bad ideas and it doesn't matter. All your ideas here look very salient and make a lot of sense. But I remember I've done this, and it's almost like, when you do that exercise where you start writing and it's gobbledygook and it becomes something,
pruning,
whatever that's called.
Well, exactly.
It's like a psychological thing.
Exactly, and what you're doing,
dumping it down, whether it's bad, good, ugly, whatever, you just get it all down, and then you kind of refine, right?
100%. I mean, as you'll see from like the next slide as we go into it, I mean, not all of this is going to go into my logo design. I mean, it would be the craziest, weirdest logo if I try to get absolutely all of this in there. So as I say, so what I do from this stage, after here, the written thought generation, is I define my direction based on my exploration. So I kind of tend to, so I've gone through that process of finding commonalities. So as you can see on the 3rd layer there, I've got mind, body, spirit, physical, mental, spiritual. So both of those have 3 elements. So I'm now trying to think about, if I start at the top, cells squared, I wanted to bring in a sense of movement. The idea of something being squared is being duplicated. And I knew I could get a sense of movement across in there. Cells are circular. So I thought, well, circle could be a good way to go. And also plays off that squared element. I don't necessarily like to do the obvious, but sometimes, you have to kind of go with the obvious, to be fair.
Sure.
So the idea of 2 cells splitting would actually be 2 circles splitting. And then obviously bridging the gap. I thought that was a really nice part of the brief that, was a, real opportunity to create something cool. So, we were talking about bridging the gap between contemporary and ancient, those 2 things, metaphysical and physical, those 2 things. We're talking about, this is a health food based product. So it's all about the journey and giving people a better health and connecting them to, the old traditional ancient ways, but doing it in a new contemporary brand, I suppose. And those 2 entities, I kind of thought, maybe I can bridge those 2 entities. Sorry, I'm just babbling here. I keep forgetting you there.
It's all good.
I love this kind of stuff. I just this is one of my favorite things about being a creative, is just getting these abstract ideas and organizing them.
Yeah, and we've all through this process, haven't we? And we've all had to find a way to kind of make sense to it and to get from the start to the end goal.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what kind of work it is. We had Melinda Livesey on recently talking about brand strategy.
She is a badass. She's cool.
Yeah, she really is. She's awesome. Even when she was going beyond logo design, similar process. Doesn't matter if it's a website, a logo, like it's always just the collation and organization and refining of ideas, right?
Yeah. So this is where all the goodness happens. It's really, logos, it's like, if I take my process and my way of working, I can't create the stuff that I create without doing this. I cannot just go, bang, that's it. For me, there has to be reason. There has to be a story. I think my clients can be more engaged and happier with the work that I do if I can tell them that everything about you is in there, because the more in tune they are with it, the better they're going to associate with it and want to sell with it and show people. And at the end of the day, I mean, I'm just creating it for them.
But it must be great for them to say, someone says to them, "Oh, we love your new logo," and they go, "Yeah, that's because of blah 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 blah," and you're like, "Oh wow, yeah, we can really see the whole process that went into that."
Exactly.
Yeah, value.
I mean, that's exactly it, mate. I love, I love telling stories.
Sure.
And my motto, life motto is, it doesn't have to be detailed to contain detail. That's my kind of, whenever I go through a design process, I'm trying to tell as much as possible, but showing you so little. So that's kind of the way I try and attack everything. Basically what I'm doing here is I'm, just really refining my ideas for a creative path. So the next slide is where the fun starts to happen. Again, if you go back to the original thought development, the word mapping, this is a very similar thing to that. The first word mapping, you're just creating stuff. There's no rhyme or reason. I mean, I knew I wanted to use the number 3. I knew I wanted to use 2 circles, and that's all I knew at this stage.
It's really interesting. I bet every designer who has ever thought about some kind of logo based on circles has somewhere got a bit of design work like this, where they've gone through a load of iterations.
100%.
Yeah,
I mean, I said,
it's great.
I mean, that's it. I mean, there's just so many.
Spark.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Just trying to find that spark.
Oh, that's it. I mean, it's just trying to. What you're doing here is that you're just creating loads of stuff. You're just, spending 10, 15, 20 minutes, max, just looking at your breakdown, your refined breakdown. You're going, right, I need 2 circles. Right, I need 3 things. Right, I need some movement. Right, where? How do I get this in? And you're literally just trying to shuffle your brain in all sorts of weird and wonderful ways. And yes, like I've said there's no rules, just doodles. It's all about just getting stuff down on paper.
And as well, you're not there with a protractor and a compass.
No, for sure. No. It's just really flowing.
It's not gonna, get into an art museum. It's it's purely for your, your own kind of, just for yourself. A lot of people don't really share this kind of stuff. To be fair, I didn't. I used to just share the kind of more refined stuff. When I was, a few years back, I was like, oh, I don't want to share my initial ideas because somebody might steal them or blah, 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 blah. But the older I get, the less I care.
I like that. I think it shows the value of your work again, shows the process, creativity.
Yeah, it's important to, I'm finding more and more the older I get, and I wouldn't say wiser, but, it's just, the more I want to share, because I realized that, knowledge, you have to get, knowledge is only knowledge if it's shared, in my opinion. You can have all the skills in the world, but if you're never sharing it with anybody, it's just going to die with you. I'm not saying I'm the only person that does it this way, but, I want, my kind of journey through logo design. If it helps one other logo designer, I've done my job. I'm happy with that.
I bet it influences, including me watching. It just includes everyone, every designer that watches this. We're all going to take a little bit out of this, and our work will improve because of it.
But I mean, I learn on every single project. There's always, there's always something that you can learn in every single project. And if you say you haven't learned something in every single project, then you're a liar, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be a skill. It can be an emotion. It can be a thought, a way of working, something to do with your process. It could be anything. But every single day, every single different design, I'm always learning something different. And that's what it's all about. So I almost broke into song.
You just got a lovely comment from Abby that said, what a nice guy.
Very nice.
Absolutely.
We shall go for beers soon. Right. Now, so this is where I've decided to. So if I go back one, when I'm here, I can kind of see a direction that I think I'm going to go with. I think it's got the most, guts, gusto, and ticks all the boxes. So this is what I call my focus and refine stage. So it's my decision time. So what I've done is I've chosen my direction, and I'm now going through the process of making sure all of my thoughts are visualized, and I start to kind of pop it all into one seemingly workable idea. So yeah, I'm trying to make sure that all of my details. So I've got, if we look at the top logo mark, I've got some like notes and stuff which I like to make. And the reason why I make notes, a lot of people go, "Oh, you just do that for Instagram." I mean, I was doing this before Instagram was around. Do you know what I mean? So it's all about making me, when I go back to it, I'm reminding myself why I've done it. I'm constantly reinforcing myself. Is this the right decision? Yes. Is it the right decision? No. Change it. There's a constant, is it right? Is it wrong scenario thing going on, which I think is quite important. I think making notes through your process and your journey, because sometimes you can get to the end and you think, well, somebody asks you, why did you do that? And if you ever say, I can't remember, then I'm not your friend. Do you know what I mean? There has to be a reason. So as I say, so at the top, I'm trying to kind of show this movement. So I've kind of got my cells splitting or cells squaring, as we call it. And the reason I used two different kind of weighted circles was to show almost like the one was in front of the other. So you've got that sense of perspective and movement. So the three lines across the middle, they tick three things off of my list. So we've got the mind, the body, the spirit. We've got the bridging the gap. So the lines are actually bridging the gap between the two circles. And we've also got what's the other one? The mind, body, spirit, and the the other three we had earlier on. What was it? Let's go back.
The notes. There we go.
Oh, the physical, mental, spiritual.
There you go. So I've got my mind, body,
we have our notes.
spirit,
Like
and my physical, mental, spiritual. I even forgot. I mean,
there we go.
I've rehearsed this many times. I can't believe I've got that.
I think that just reinforced the importance of notes.
Exactly. There you go. Making notes. So there's always a reason. So yeah, and the reason. So originally, when I was kind of doing some sketches, I had all the lines the same. So they'd start at the same point on the left, finished on the same point on the right. But this is what you're doing when you're kind of going through your process. You're always refining all the goodness. So I soon realized, or I've always known, that nature is random. We're talking about a natural product. So to make something super stiff and too controlled almost goes against what the brand's about. So the staggering of the lines adds that kind of random, natural element to it. And I think it helps to define the movement, so to speak. And that's why I was kind of finishing them at different stages. What else we got around here? Bridging the gap, covered that. Lines bring movement, visualizing the cells.
Looking at that C in cell.
It's lovely.
Yes. Yeah. So obviously adding in, I mean, this is what I always like to do. I mean, I love creating logo marks, but within the logo type, I always like to add just something.
Yeah.
Even if it's an angle, even if it's, just something that makes it unique to them. And obviously we're talking about cells squaring and the circumpunct being the cell itself, adding just that little dot, it's a super small thing, but it makes it theirs. And the circumpunct being the origin of life and all these beautiful things. And here you can start to, all of those notes that I had have now been put into this, little ditty. I love it. I mean, sometimes I look back on stuff and I go, "Damn, that's pretty freaking cool."
You find it always comes together so beautifully like that, or
it is. I mean, it doesn't always. It's not easy. It doesn't happen just overnight or happen every time. There's always, as you'll see at the end. I mean, I kind of go through a process of, I don't like to half-ass a load of ideas. This is my process, and it doesn't have to work for everybody. But I like to put my full ass into one idea rather than half-ass a load of ideas. And the reason I do that, because I find it works for me, it works for my process, and it allows me to, if I had to try and get all of this detail into 3 totally different elements, it would take me a year to do a logo.
Because as you say, what's so interesting is how differently everyone works. Because we had our friend Jacob Cass on a few months ago.
Another dude, nice guy.
And great guy, amazing logo designer. He quite often has 5 to 7 options. And who go quite in depth with them. I know many other successful people like you that only do one. So there's kind of no one right answer. It's whatever's right
what
for
works
you.
For you, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Because it's a process is something, I've been designing for 15 years now. And there's people who've designed a lot longer and a lot less. But I mean, what you're always doing, as you guys will both know, is you're always refining your process. Your process is never set in stone. I'm always trying to, I want not necessarily perfect it, because it's never going to be perfect, because as creatives, we can never find a perfect solution to working, because also the people that you're working with are all very different. So you do have to chameleon yourself to your situation and the person and what happens during the process. But I think as long as you do have your kind of set boundaries, of your process nailed down, you're never going to stray too far away from comfort. That's where am I?
Yeah, right. Totally agree. So once happy, head into Illustrator. I can see it.
Once happy, head into Illustrator. So basically what I tend to do is do one kind of final sketch, just making sure it's all right. And what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of, again, reiterating all of my points. Is everything fine? Everything's good? Very, very super rough. I generally tend to do these on the same pages, but for this kind of exercise, I've shown the sketch with the with the vector next to it.
I think it one of those hell yeah nods. Those little like that you do when you're like, oh yeah,
it's really satisfying.
It really is, isn't it? Yeah, it's great.
To be fair, I'm going to be totally honest with you guys here. You see the so the intersection, the bold, the bold line. You see how I've inverted the stripes that go through. So you got the line, then they go white, then they go black, and then they obviously flicker. That was a total mistake, but I kept it.
That's all right.
but this is a very important thing.
Yes.
Because obviously what I was doing was I was, as you can see at the top, I'm drawing my lines.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of going over my lines, but then I went too far. But then I just started to just kind of color in the different ones, and I realized I had my 3 again. I had my 3, so I got my 3 white stripes and my 2 black stripes, which go back to my physical, metaphysical, and my mind, body, spirit 3s. So sometimes you have, this is what I love about drawing, and this is why I always urge young designers, not that you have to do it, but some of my best work and have all been through sometimes making mistakes in your sketchbook, because you have a lot more freedom. I think you could work slightly. Well, I can work quicker on a sketchbook. So what I would also say to any designer is, once you don't, if it works, if it adds something, if a mistake adds it, if something adds something, keep it. If it doesn't, get rid of it, if that makes sense. But don't. A design's never really finished until it's signed off. So, I could have kept that line. I could have kept that bit of the circle on the right, the big boulder circle, all black. But for me, it just added something a little bit more zhuzhy, I like to call it. Just added an extra depth of story without me even knowing about it. So yeah, and all I'm doing here is, as I said, I'm taking it into the Illustrator, making sure my balance is right, my weight's right, and then we repeat. Because obviously I can send that over to my client, and they might go, James, it's really nice, I absolutely love it, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
And then what we're doing, I mean, this is also another reason why I like to focus on one idea, because then your feedback is always focused on that one idea.
Sure.
So what happens is I will say, okay, no problem, no worries whatsoever.
Yeah.
Can you please focus in on the bits and pieces that you don't like?
I love it. So it's the way I used to work as well. I love that way of working.
Yeah. So what you're doing then is you're automatically, I mean, you're still in charge of the process, but at all times, you yourself as the designer and the client are always focused on where you are and where you need to be. So they could have gone, oh, I don't like the type direction. You go, well, can you tell me what you don't like about the type direction? And they'll go, well, I think it's a little bit too thin or a little bit too thick. So when you go to developing your ideas, you can then go, right, I know that they didn't like it because it was too thick. So then you adjust and refocus and define that problem and fix it. It could be something else. But obviously what you're doing is the next time you then go through your development stage and you're speaking to your client, you take control in the email. You've highlight, their issues with the design, and you highlight the fact that you have focused on those issues and fixed them. And what you're doing is you're talking through your process. You're making sure that you've listened. You're telling them that you've listened, and you're telling them that you fixed it for them. And sometimes that's all they need. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Just the reassurance of, okay, he has listened, and I mean, one person's art is another person's, rubbish. I don't know the actual saying, but you know what I mean. Some people you can go to, I've had logo designs and logo processes that have gone through like 20 people before, and all it takes is one person to not like that logo, and you're done.
And it's so subjective, isn't it? It's so difficult.
It's impossible. Like I always,
to keep everyone happy.
Another thing I say at the beginning of the project, is it you I'm working with?
Yeah.
Because I've been in a situation where
the process go, is it over there somewhere?
Yeah, exactly. Suddenly you're working with their mum, their nan, their dog,
CEO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very clear. But again, this all comes, all this process and strategy and whatever you want to call it, all comes through doing. Before, in the beginning, I used to be very airy-fairy. It used to be, what do you want? All right, I'll do it, But now, over time, I've really developed a process that works for me. This process won't work for everybody, and it's not supposed to work for everybody. But I also do think it's good to see how other designers do attack the same problem.
Yeah, and as always, you can take and borrow the bits you want. You don't have to follow James's whole process to the number.
No.
But you could be like, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought of doing it that way, and just take one piece of it.
Exactly. I mean, even if you take nothing out of this apart from wanting to draw a little bit more.
Sure.
How bloody lovely would that be? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't even have to be a logo. It can just be, you could draw your dog or whatever, draw your nut, I don't know, whatever you want to do. I
mean, my process is really, really similar to this when I used to do this kind of work, but I never touched a sketch pad. I always used to do everything in Illustrator, but this makes me think, do you know what, maybe I should pick up a sketch pad more often.
But that's not wrong. Buddy,
no.
That's
similar design style, similar kind of end, but different way of getting there.
That's the beautiful thing about it. And, as I said, like I kind of grew up in a world where, because I've been growing up, I was a fine artist. Then, I did a tattoo apprenticeship, and I did some lots of other bits and pieces before I started graphic design, and all of that was sketchbook work. So that was something that has been with me since I was Diddy, 2, 3, 4 drawing. And some people don't necessarily have that background. Obviously, technology is different now.
Sure.
These beautiful iPads and all these kind of bits and pieces. That's why I'm not getting one, because I know probably as soon as I do, I'm out. Do you know what I mean?
Love Illustrator.
Exactly.
Procreate hasn't me in yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we've seen that doing this weekly hangout for quite a while now. Every single person brings something different.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about sketching, that's something we've seen from, quite a few people, especially logo designers. But equally, I'm thinking now of Draplin doing, I think it was that Linda course, where he just moved his cursor at the speed of light and worked entirely in Illustrator and kept duplicating his logo and tweaking. So he ended up with 50 of them and just did it rapidly that way.
You tweet. Yeah. However you can work quickly and freely, I guess. And your design style.
I'm more of a sketchbook person. Yeah. So whatever works for you, as we say.
So I think if it works for you, it works, you know. Yeah. And that's another thing. I mean, as I said, I'm a slightly old git now, so I don't really care what people think. But a lot of people always do go, "Oh, why did you waste time doing that?" Or why would you?
How old are you now, James?
36.
Oh, whippersnapper.
Is it?
Well, I'm not going to say how old I am. But older than that. A few years.
Well, I suppose in the cold grand Instagram thing, I'm fairly old.
Well, this is it.
Whatever you do,
Instagram makes me feel a million.
Whatever you do, James, don't go on TikTok, mate.
No, do you know what? That will never happen.
That. My niece uses that.
Probably. Yeah. So, are you ready for some Q&A?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will cancel that down.
Cool.
And if I close this video tab, in fact, I can see you. I think so that's fine.
No. Go close it up and we'll come back.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
I'm back.
Yeah, back with a bang. Before we jump into Q&A, just want to say, everyone, let's give it up for James because that was amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That was very, very insightful, and
thank you, James.
I saw the Instagram post when it came out. It's great to see it in more detail, but it engaged like crazy when you shared that process. I think there's not enough of that going on in the industry. Like, I'd love you to post more of it in the future.
It's gonna happen, and what I've got another one coming after this. Actually, you're actually in my Instagram posting time, so I'm going to let you off this time. But what I'm trying to do is. At the end of every project, share what I've learned, because I think it's quite a cool thing. So watch out for that later on.
Well, there's a lot of people sharing advice, but it's nice to see that advice backed up by real world examples. It's like, and actually, here's it working. Oh, okay, brilliant. That makes it so much more solid, doesn't it? It's like, okay, so this is what I'm saying you should do, and can we see some proof that that's what you should do and it works?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got kind of wound up by just looking at a logo, and I'm thinking, how you don't see the pain, the crying in the corner. It's all about passion.
Check out all that love in the comments section though, James. Lovely design cutters, aren't there? So first question we got is Stan. This is a great question, actually. It says, hi, James. What questions, for example, do you ask for a brief to know the right ingredients to go on to step 2?
How do you get your brief defined by the client, I guess?
Because it looked like a very helpful brief. Is it open-ended, or do you give them some pointers?
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, the quality of brief does come from the client. I mean, I've had people who give me no brief and just say, get on with it. And then I have to kind of, do more work, really. So I'm basically asking them, like, as a real simple breakdown, I always ask them for the company name. That's very important. Secondly, I ask them just very quickly in one paragraph, if they don't give me a decent brief, by the way, I ask them for, just briefly describe in one paragraph and attach 4 or 5 words that kind of what you want this logo to feel, what you're all about. And I just ask them just to describe their business to me. Just tell me what you do. Tell me your target market. So if you sell stuff, who do you sell it to? What kind of products do you sell? And funny enough, even just a few quick triggers, they'll suddenly be writing sometimes a nice brief. But, I have some people, when I say, could you possibly send me, a design brief? And they go, what's that? And I go, a description of your business. And they go, oh, yeah, I get that. Basically, I think if the brief that you've been given is just a company name and some, I want this, it's good to just explore a little bit more and get them to, give you some answers to just some simple questions. What is it you do? Who do you do it for? Why are you doing this? Why now? You know, all these simple questions, and suddenly you've got enough guts to create.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're providing one logo, you need as much information as possible, so they can say, well, why does the logo look like that? And you can say, well, it looks like that because the information you gave me said your audience is this, and this is who you're targeting, this is who your market is, blah, 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 blah. So this is the right logo for your audience and to target them and to help conversions, etc.
Very much so. I mean, but I'm also, I'm not one of those. I'm very collaborative on my process. I think collaboration, you can do some magical things. I'm not a designer who says this is what you should be having, and if you don't like it, I'm off, mate. I'm off. If they start talking trash and asking me for crazy stuff that's out of remit and nothing to do with this, or they say I want a script logo, so I do a cool logo type, and then they go, in fact, I want to go down this and this. But I mean, this is the importance of communication as well. Have an email train. Make sure that you've asked for that brief. So if they then suddenly halfway through go left field with you, you can go, dude, you told me. A, B, C, D, E, and now you're asking for Jeffrey over there or whatever. So as long as you've got that email train and that communication going, you should always be in control of the process.
Definitely. Matt, do you want to take this next question from Smith and Sylvan Creates?
Sure. It says, hi, James. Are there other areas of focus outside of design that you invest your time in which assist your creative and detailed process of thinking? Thanks again for sharing so much of your insight with the community.
These people are way more intelligent than me.
Do you spend your weekends bouncing around on a pogo stick?
Does that work?
This doesn't bounce anyway, I'm afraid. I've drawn forever, so I feel that I draw every day. I'm on Illustrator every single day. So those kind of skills are always being developed. The stuff that I'm actually doing more of now is concentrating more on, I'm not trying to be all spiritual and hippie about it, but I'm trying to concentrate more about myself, making sure that my systems and my processes are better. I'm making sure I sleep better, because I'm making sure that I eat better. I'm making sure that I exercise better. I'm making sure that, I used to set loads of goals. I don't set goals anymore. I just make sure that all of the things that I need to be doing are being done well, because then the things that I want in the future will just happen.
It gets quite meta when you start setting goals to set less goals.
It does actually. Yeah, you're true. But but that's something, because what I used to do is, I think when you achieve a goal, you're ecstatic for a day, an hour, and then you set another one. So I've decided not to kind of have that thing going on, and just concentrate on, just being a better human, teaching a bit more, sharing a bit more, and then all the things I think that I want to achieve will just naturally happen. That's more. I suppose I'm more concentrating on myself as a human to make myself a better designer, if that makes sense. Because I think the skills are, I don't think I can always get better at Illustrator, but I only use like 3 tools.
That's what you need, right? Most of the time in Illustrator, that's all.
Most of it's done in the sketchbook.
What is even all that other stuff?
A circle can only be drawn with a compass. Do you know what I mean? But it's just making sure the mind's clear to keep those ideas generating. I think that's quite a cool thing.
It's a good mindset. I think we can all take note from that for sure. Chris asks, can we download the slide presentation you used today for future reference? So sure. I know that there's a version on your Instagram. How about the full slide deck?
I'm happy for anybody that wants it. If they just DM me on Instagram, or I can give it to you guys. I'll probably amend the spelling for you first. But then, I'm happy to send it, put a link up or something. So if that's what you want, that's what you get.
I think the best thing is that most designers won't notice the spelling was wrong. So you're fairly safe. When I'm in design mode, my spelling's just gone. Spelling? What even is that when I'm designing?
I counted about 6 spelling mistakes. I was like, you idiot.
So James's Instagram is linked up below. James, could you do me a favor, mate? Do you mind DMing me after this and just say slide deck, and I've got a cool idea to chat with you. And also, if people follow James and myself on Instagram, hang out with us tomorrow, because we are having a live debate about whether it's good to niche as a designer or not. So it's going to be a good.
And don't worry, me and Tom will still be friends afterwards.
That's what he thinks.
Trying to get my followers to beat up your followers.
He's got quite the reach, actually, Tom. He's quite tall, you know.
Yeah, I know.
I go under it.
He's got a bigger community than me, though, so they're going to beat me up.
His big community.
He looks like quite a big guy as well. So no, I watch my back.
It's mostly doughy, mate. Don't worry about it.
I know how you feel after Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to take this next one, Matt?
Sure, I'll take this one from Amy, actually. What was the client feedback on the logo? Were there any iterations prior to the final one?
With that one, that was actually the second phase we went on.
Cool.
So the first one was pretty similar, but I kind of went with something a bit more. I probably went a bit too spiritual. You know, a bit too kind of ancient symbology with
geometry kind of thing.
So,
that kind of. I went a bit too. I mean, that's what I like. You know, I tend to go all the way over here.
Sure.
And then either my client or myself bring myself back. So with that one, that was a second run. I mean, we could have gone through like the whole process, but then we would have been talking for twice as long. And I've only got like a half an hour slot.
Do you know what I thought? And I mean this as a compliment, because I think both aesthetics are great. When I first saw that logo, I thought MasterCard meets Blade Runner. It's like a really cool futuristic spin on
Death Star, you know, the Death Star at the end of it, where there's a graphic and it does this and it kind of
that's a good one as well.
That's cool.
But I like it. It's such a cool symbol. It's one of the favorite logo marks.
But you guys would have also seen this. I mean, I post some stuff on Instagram. Well, I post stuff on Instagram quite a lot, and they go, you know, they'll DM me going, dude, you know, check out this logo. It's exactly the same. And you look at it and you go, dude.
No.
I appreciate you looking out for me, but let's put them side by side. And
thank you so much for the questions, guys. We might have time for a couple more.
Matt, gonna roll?
Yeah, do you want to take this one? And then I wanted to grab one after.
Cool. It says, when designing, this is from Rachel. When designing, it's gone. It's gone. Scroll it.
Oh, Rachel.
It does this.
It's been upvoted.
They get voted up and then they just vanish. When designing a logo, do you also think about how it could be extended into a full brand guideline project for the company?
Depends if they're paying me for that.
Right. If they get the money out. Ching.
Yeah. So I have like very quickly I have like packages. So I have a logo package, I have a brand vision package, I have a deep dive brand package, and I have a bespoke package. So
again and again and again, actually, don't worry.
Exactly. So depending on what they want.
Yeah, how much money have you got? This is what I can give you.
Well, exactly. It's also like, you know, a lot of people like the brand vision stuff, because you do like association type faces and fonts to work on web and print, all this kind of stuff. But some people, you know, might just be doing just want to redo their logo or just want a logo, or they're not, you know, some people, sometimes I do the logo first, then they upgrade and then they upgrade and then they upgrade. So it's
nice to be flexible, right?
I think it's important to be flexible, and I think that's a very important thing for everybody to, you know. I sometimes do free work. You know, if a project turns up on my doorstep and it hits the right heartstrings, the person's right, and those humans are doing something good for other humans, I just do it for free, even if they're willing to pay. Because that's I think another. Not saying that everybody should do free work. I'm not saying that, but I think there is a time and a place to use your skills to help other people.
Yes,
I totally agree.
For sure.
I mean, I don't want to sound like an opportunist, but feel free to have a look at the Design Cuts logo. And have I mentioned how talented and good looking you are recently, James?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, depending on how the debate goes tomorrow, I might have a
well, if Tom takes a fall, right, if he's on, if he's by the ropes in round one, I'll know. And we get a really like a new iteration of the logo a couple of weeks later. I'll be like,
it's like subliminally, I'm going to start putting like made by James hints in the design.
Look.
So I was about to shout out Monica, but it looks like her son took over her computer, because we got a comment saying, "Thank you from Orlando. I'm 9 years old and I like to draw."
Oh, there you go. Hey,
Monica, let us know if your son's still there, and if he is, has he got a question? And what's your son's name?
Monica.
That would be let us know, Monica. But that would be a great final question if we can help out your 9-year-old son.
I actually basically think like a 9-year-old, so we could probably have a good chat.
Good, perfect.
There's always a bit of a delay on the comments, James. So
that's right. I'm just doing some comments now.
I know, I can see.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you everyone for joining. It's been really fun today.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
James,
really good.
Thank you again. You've been one of our favourite guests.
Yeah, that's really good. Thanks ever so much, James.
Any time. I would like to come back in a year and I'll tell you my new process.
Awesome.
We'd love to have you back
I've changed my mind.
The process of ever-changing processes.
Yeah.
Cool.
I love it. And yeah, we linked up your website. Everyone go check out James's work. Check out James's Instagram. Give him a follow. And there's going to be more process stuff coming soon.
Amazing.
Yeah, cool. And I'll send you that PDF, Tom.
Oh yeah, incredible. Well, yeah,
awesome.
let's have a chat tomorrow.
Okay.
I've got a cool idea for how you could share it with your community.
Okay, you're the boss now.
All right,
yeah, Mr. Marketing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Tom's
there's always an angle.
If Tom's got a plan, I'll listen.
He's always got an angle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gretchen says, James, get ready to read 400 DMs.
Yeah.
It's all right. I'll answer them all.
Brilliant.
Yeah, he will. James, thank you again. You've been fantastic.
Thanks,
I'll chat to you tomorrow for the Royal Rumble. Yeah. And everyone out there in the Design Cuts community, you lovely design cutters.
Guys. Great to see you as ever.
Appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you this time next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
Cheers.